Hello and welcome to another Subnet session coming to you live from Subnet's offices here in Forestville, South Australia. Today we're talking about one of the most topical things, at least around my desk at the moment. How do we secure AI and secure AI adoption in your organization? As the sales and marketing person within Subnet, one of the leads, it's something that I struggle with every day. So here to help us try and make some sense of it is, as in his own words, a very ordinary and normal person, Scott Lancaster. Welcome.
Thank you, Drew. Really appreciate the welcome, mate. And thank you very much for the opportunity to come along and have a chat with you about what Netskope's got in this area.
No worries. Now, you've actually given a couple of briefings to me and my team as we've been evaluating products and having a look around the marketplace. What's your role at Netskope for everybody?
So my role is a channel solutions engineer. So my role is to look after partners and make sure the partners have everything that they need from a Netskope perspective. So I've been technical for a long time in this industry. As you can tell, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. And so, yeah, a lot of experience, although the AI stuff is fairly new to us, but yeah, that's where I come from.
Well, we're not bringing up age, especially with the overhead lighting they have in here that highlights my ball patches here. Apologies for Ben, who was meant to be hosting this one. If you're looking for his dulcet tones, you get myself today. But without any further ado, I'm seeing there's a couple of people popping in here. As always, please pop any questions in the Q&A sections or anything you want us to just throw around in the general chat. We can interrupt Scott at any time. He's a professional and pick right back up. And I'm not sure if we have any polls in store. We'll have to see what Ben and Scott have organised for us later on. From that, and with my camera going black for some unknown reason, Scott, I'm going to let you take over the stage.
No worries, mate. I'm going to share my screen sharing. I'm going to go with this one. And hopefully you guys can see that on the screen there now. So, yeah, thank you very much for having me. Today, we're going to be talking about how Netskope implements its AI security features. As Drew said, please jump in with any questions. I know Drew's going to interrupt me. Interruptions can be hard to retract from, but as he said, I'm a professional. We'll get through this, right?
Yeah, we've got all day. It's fine.
Yeah, that's right. So it's an interesting story with the AI services. Although it is new, right? The AI piece is new, and it's a new addition to our product. It actually comes from quite well-known backgrounds, and I'll explain that as I go through it with a couple of little screenshot demos as we go. But yeah, it's kind of new, but not new. But anyway, you'll see what I mean as we go through it. Where's my button? There it is. There we go. First of all, thank you, Subnet, for allowing me to come along. I'm no expert by any means in this. I think it's more about having a lot of experience in the industry. And as I said, being a security professional, the kind of stuff that we talk about in this is not abnormal, but you guys are very experienced in AI, and you're way ahead of the curve. I know when we were chatting the other day, I was really surprised. I'm trying to show you guys about AI, and you are already at a level well beyond the norm that I've seen out there. And you guys are hands-on playing, and you understand what it means to have AI security. So, yeah, thank you for letting me come along to add to your knowledge. And look, Drew, you know a lot more about this than I do. So if you've got anything to add while we're going through these and your experience, please jump in there as well, mate.
Will do.
Cool. So today we're going to be talking about how we accelerate AI adoption. And that's always something we've talked about with security, right? Is because you want people to be able to do their job, but you also want them to be able to do it safely with a security aspect. And you don't want security to be the inhibitor. You want it to be the enabler, right? So that's what we're going to talk about, how we let you use your AI adoption using Netskope One's AI security solution. As I said, my name is Scott Lancaster, Channel Solutions Engineer across ANZ. Now, this is not going to be unusual to a lot of people. We're doing some scene setting here, so bear with me. The common AI adoption journey that we would often talk about, it's quite funny to think about. ChatGPT's introduction was only in like November 2023, right? That's relatively new into the marketplace. I'm still struggling with it. I'll give you an example of how I struggle with AI in a minute. A funny story, but my wife has been using ChatGPT for quite a while now, and she's actually using it to help her grow her business. She's an interior designer. Small plug if anybody wants to look it up. But she's running her own website. She's built her own blog, and she's done it all with the help of ChatGPT, and got herself up into quite a high level, of where she's pulling in regular leads from that business from her website, and she's done all that by herself. Now that's what we're seeing out in enterprises, right? People are wanting to use these new technologies. And again, this conversation is not a new one. We've seen people using, we talk about shadow here, we've labeled it as shadow AI, but we've been talking about shadow IT for a long time. People are bringing, you tell people, for instance, you're in an organization and I do this in my job quite regularly. We've run a presentation. How do I share the presentation with somebody? And our share systems may not necessarily allow me to easily share that file or the documentation out to people in a necessarily easy way. And so what we'll see is that people will go around the IT policies you put in place, and they'll quickly go out to something like, I don't know, and I'm just pulling this out of thin air, maybe Dropbox or whatever share system that they find is easier, completely bypassing your rules. Then you don't know what tools they're using, you don't know what data they're posting, and you don't know who's accessing it and where it's ending up. And even worse is sometimes the agreements that you don't read when you tick the 57 pages of agreement information, that may be saying that they now own your data. So yeah, you need to be aware of that. And we're seeing exactly the same thing happening with AI. People want to use AI. It's going to make their lives easier. I've got a good friend who does all of his emails on AI, every single one. He doesn't write an email anymore.
Does he just talk to it and have them reply, or is it just suggest me a response? Because I want to know what he's using.
Yeah, no. So he's using the normal tools. I don't know whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini, but he's training the system to respond in his kind. So he's reading it through first before sending, but he's getting it to write up the entire email.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, people are going to do it, right? You have to allow that experimentation, but do it with a level of safety. So we have to be aware of they're doing that. Then we have to look inside, and Zoom is an application that we use regularly through our organization. It's sanctioned. But what you may not be aware of is that inside these SaaS platforms, and Zoom in particular, if you have a look, has a whole third-party AI marketplace. And there are applications in there that you may not be aware of. And this is happening with other SaaS vendors as well. And we're all using SaaS nowadays. I won't go into that in too much detail, right? I'll touch on that a bit later. And I do a little bit of a history lesson on firewalls. But so we just need to be aware, and you need to be allowed to be able to discover that these things are happening inside, right?
Yeah. My sales and marketing system, HubSpot, has a lot of connections into all of the different, the three major LLMs floating around, and you can imagine what all that data is in a sales and marketing CRM.
Yeah, look, that's exactly right, and it's very easy to put this data up into some sort of portal. We have to be aware that there's potential for that data then, whether that's through the application you're using. They, as I said, if you've signed up to their terms and agreements, they potentially may now own the data that you've sent them that they can use in their own models. So you need to be conscious of that and look out for your DLP, your IP, right? And just be conscious of a data loss protection method there. So, and then we're actually seeing, although not as much, but we are talking to companies. And I think, Drew, you guys are building your own LLMs. Is that right?
Unofficially, yes.
Yes.
It's more, at the playing and seeing what they can do. We've got lots of rocks and goals that we set out for the business. By 2030, we wanted to automate 50% of what we were doing back in 2019.
How good is that?
So, this AI revolution is really helping us achieve some of those goals, where it's not just coding and automation and workflows. We can now actually build our own secure local agents or secure local LLMs within Subnet. So
absolutely amazing.
Can't sell that yet, so no one hit me up and chat about it.
No, but that's perfect, and that's exactly what we're seeing some organizations starting to do, right? Now you have to be careful about where are those applications that the applications that you're using, where are they sourced from? More importantly, where does the code they're using come from? And I have seen in some cases people going onto things like GitHub and downloading and installing, third-party unverified applications to run in their organization for a trial or an experiment, right?
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? I've got another story that I like to tell about cloud vulnerability, but the same thing happens where if you go and install, and again, it's the same conversation we've been having for years. It's just the application has changed. If you went and installed off one of the leading provider marketplaces, just a Drupal web PHP instance and install it right straight out of the marketplace, or whatever term it didn't have to be marketplace, right? I don't want to name names, but that application that's baked in had inherent vulnerabilities that once it was deployed, within 3 days had been hacked, and it was running Bitcoin mining software. So a bit of an old story, but you don't know what the vulnerability is. So run these through a security service, such as the Secure One platform, and let us look for those vulnerabilities that potentially could be baked in. And then autonomous agents is the new one. We're starting to talk about that now. Hence your question, Drew, about my mate. Is he using an agent to go in and write it for him? No. But I think the idea in the future is that you will have some sort of virtual agent that will inherit your permissions and just go and do your work for you. So with that level of autonomy that's coming, we need to have visibility into those agents. And I'll share a story about that in a minute.
Well, what I've seen with that is that is so locked into as our future. Microsoft has already come out with a statement that those agents will require their own versions of licensing.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, it's definitely coming, man. It's sorry, I'm just looking sideways because that's where I've got the other piece while I've got you up on the big screen. Right. So with the whole point of the Netskope One AI security is giving you organizations that comfort and that confidence to be able to move from an AI experimentation into what we term as an AI advantage. And you'll see these words, come up in our marketing play a little bit, but it's about giving you that visibility, that security play, right? The visibility and discovery across users, apps, agents, your internal LLMs and apps, as well as protecting runtime interactions across those data sources. So we'll delve into that in a bit more detail about how we actually do it. And again, this is not a new conversation, right? We would have talked about this if you're using SaaS services or anything else. So when we talk about, there's 3 sort of dimensions that we talk about in that discovery, that security, and the protection side of it. So there's some examples here on the left. I hope it's on your left when you're viewing it, unless it's reversed on the screen, of course. But, managed enterprise, we talk about AI, we talk about MCP communications nowadays. We talk about coding assistance. Oh, and MCP, I'm sure everybody knows about the model context protocols, which is really just the new protocol that agents can exchange information. So think of it as like a good friend of mine, Peter Bullen, describes it as a USB-C cable of comms. So when everybody's writing their own AI and LLMs, right, you don't want them talking in different languages. You want them to be able to operate together. So it's about having a common language, and that's what MCP is. So, when you had previously USB lightning connectors, and you had micro, what are the other ones? The micro, I can't think of the word of it, USB adapters. One would charge, one's for your phone, one's for your speaker, so the USB is your MCP of that service. So we're seeing AI and MCP on endpoints. It's embedded, right? So we need to discover all of these services and bring them up to the forefront so that we can then assess the risk, right? And then provide security across those environments, and then protect those AI directions down into the data inputs. And we can do that using real-time actions, enforcing those policies in real time using our policy engine, and across all of those services, right? So agentic, MCP, user, and then stopping the attackers from getting in and doing their bad things as well. And we'll talk about how we do that in a bit more detail. No questions popped up, Drew?
Not yet. Let me double check.
Fantastic.
No, not yet. You must be doing a good job.
I hope I'm not moving too fast for everyone. They're not taking it in. And that's something I've been accused of, right? Is talking too fast. So I try to slow down. Anyway, Top use cases for securing. These are the 4 pillars that we're going to be talking about that focus on our platform, and I'll go into these in a little bit more depth as we go through. The first one, as I mentioned, right, starts with visibility. Now, I'm just going to try something a little bit different here. Let me know if this works okay. Can you still see? Has that changed my screen?
Yeah, we have a new
It has.
tab.
Fantastic. So what I'm showing you here, right, is this is logging in to our Netskope One platform. We really talk about using a single console to get your full visibility, to identify and then play that discovery piece, to run your reporting, and to do your real-time protection policies inside a single console. We don't have to go anywhere else. We're not bolting on any third party. We're not purchasing a third-party solution and trying to force it in. It's already baked in, and we've just changed some of these modules around, which is fantastic for you. So what I'm going to click on is in our advanced analytics here, is one I prepared earlier. Inside the advanced analytics in the library, and this is just built in. You can see advanced analytics. I'm looking at the advanced AI screen, which is just a reporting dashboard that is already there in the system. And you can see that I'm looking at, no, I'm not. I haven't actually. Right, while I'm talking, I'm going to talk about the different services. And I wanted this preloaded, so I didn't have to wait for it here. I'm clicking on this report here, which is an AI usage report. So my pre-canned environment didn't go as planned. But anyway, I can talk over it while it loads. Essentially, this dashboard, and I'm just looking at 7 days here, starts giving you this visibility right away. And this is just from plugging users in through the system, right? You can see I've listed out activity in AI apps specifically. We're looking at, we've got 365 Copilot, ChatGPT, and you can see that we're breaking that down with what's happening in the activity in the apps, right? So it's not, I've got 10 users using it. I can tell you what these users are doing inside the application from, are they doing a post? Are they subscribing to all interactions? Are they browsing? Are they creating? Are they responding? Are they uploading, right? Not just discovering it, but giving you the context. And I'll talk more on that in detail in a little bit. We can look at the actions that we've taken on the app usage. So have we alerted, blocked, taken no action, for instance? The AI trend usage app is really cool. So for instance, if we discover a new AI app and we see that trend going up, you can start to work out if you need to put some policy in place for that. User count, detected apps, you can break down into these in more detail and click on them. I'm not going to do it now, but it will take you through to the interaction detail, top 20 user groups, right? And then details on app events. Now, this is all just baked in. This is a bog standard report that you can modify and change, but it's already baked in. That's the level of visibility that we talk about. Back to this one. Hopefully you can see the visibility screen again.
Yep.
Cool. And then once we've got that visibility, we want to be able to layer on some risk details. Now, something that we talk about that's another inherent part of our platform is our CCL, or as you can see on the screen, our cloud confidence level. And that's about us discovering the applications for you. Now, we have something like over 85,000 SaaS applications that we've discovered as part of our native platform. We automatically categorize and basically list them out for you, so it gives you a good understanding of what they are. We also give them an adaptive risk score. What does that mean? So we look inside the application, we work out things like, as I've talked about, the terms of acceptance for using it. Do they own the data? Do they send the data to external third parties? Are we seeing live traffic going from that application source out to, I don't know, something nefarious, maybe North Korea or something, right? And we'll change the adaptive risk score for your confidence level of that application. Now, we do that for SaaS apps and normal applications, and also now your AI applications. So you can quite confidently say, create a policy at a very high level that says any application, whether that's SaaS or AI, for instance, has a very high cloud confidence level, I'm going to allow them. But maybe if you go on a lower, so it's got a low risk level, you can reclassify that and put it into an automatic block policy. and that's in real time. Okay, as we discover something nefarious happening with one of those applications, we will update that cloud score auto-magically on your behalf, thus affecting the real-time policy control that you have. That's pretty cool. Actually, I had a link out to it. I was going to show you, but that actually looks exactly the same as the screenshot. So, but that's showing in real time, right? That is in the same dashboard that we use.
Yeah, and it's changing so fast, isn't it, Scott? I mean, you can sit down and review their compliance. You can have a look at all their records and go, "This is a good business," but you know what happens to them after from that point. You can't just live with a one-time verification of their security.
That's exactly right, mate. Yeah. So, and we take all that on board for you, right, as part of the platform. That's not an extra service. That is baked and built into the platform.
Mm.
The other piece that we talk about, talking about, and we are very well known as a DLP company. That's where our roots we came from. So data loss protection, identifying what your data is, where it's going, and then more importantly, where it lives and where it's flowing, right? And we talk about that in a DSPM as well, data security posture management. Where is your data sitting in a cloud environment? And you can see down the bottom, there's a data lineage graph. I know it's not very clear, but it's essentially showing you a piece of data. We're showing you who created the data, where the data was stored. Then you can see it's broken up and it's been copied and sent out to another data store location. And then from there, we can show you all the different instances of who's accessing and what they're doing with that data, and also what's inside that data. Does it contain sensitive information to your organization? Does it have, if you're worried about, I think the one on the screen says insurance doc details, right? But maybe that has information that somebody's put a JPEG in that is sensitive to your organization. We can track it.
Yeah, anonymized education data, or Medicare, credit card, anything.
PI information, all of that stuff is trackable through the system, right? Now, we talk about that again. Here's the same thing I'm talking about. It's the same conversation we had with users. The same conversation exists when we introduce AI. So now we're talking specifically around agents, MCP, Gen AI, right? It's the same thing. We're just tracking where that data is going and including the MCP and AI piece to that, right? So all that visibility is there. It's already available in the platform, which is really cool. Now here's a little bit of a history lesson. I don't know, when I first started doing security, right, this is the source of information that we would get out of a firewall. It'd be source IP, destination IP, source port, blocker allow. That was all we used to do with them, right? Essentially 4 bits of information that we could make decisions on. And that was fine for probably, I'm going to, let go a little bit of my age here. Maybe that was 20 years ago, Drew.
Well, if anyone on the line is familiar with phone system installs, capture the packet is, a dreadful phrase to have to shout out loud. It's still a thing.
It's still, that's right. Luckily, there's better tools to help us through it, right? But that was what we needed, right? We needed more data. Everything I've been talking about, the visibility, the discovery, right? And then the security plays around that. The more data that we have, then the better security services we can apply to that. And what we brought out with our platform is really, we talk about zero trust, not as a product, thank you, but as a security concept model, right?
Yeah.
Is we have to be able to identify the user. Do we trust them? We have to look at the source IP. Are they on a managed device? Are they coming from the home office? Do we trust them? Right? All of this information we have to look into. Now, this hasn't changed. Again, I keep harping on about it. It's the same conversation, right? Now we're just applying the same services, but on an agent perspective. So granular security controls, again, start with context. And we do that using our Netskope 1 zero trust engine based on the zero trust principles. We would look at, is it Scotty? Is he logging in from home? Is he doing it at 3 a.m. instead of his normal work times? Has he suddenly popped up in Czech or Slovakia, sorry, at 3 a.m., which is totally outside his normal parameters, and you can apply services around that. And something that we do different is we don't just block or allow that service. We can also, and this is really important, is we can coach or re-auth those users. Coaching is really important in this aspect, where if you bring up, so let's say we identify that Scotty is logging into from home, normal times, he's logging into his G Drive as we would expect it, as it's a trusted. We're a Google user. But what I notice is that Scotty's logged in as his personal email. It's Scotty Lancaster at Gmail, not my real email address, instead of S Lancaster at Netskope, right? I can see that, and I can prompt Scott and say, Scotty, you logging in with your personal instance, dude? Is that what you really? You wouldn't say, dude. Sorry, that's a slip of the tongue. But you would say, this is your personal instance. Are you sure you want to continue? And quite often, that prompting of the user's use is enough to educate the user to change their behavior patterns, right? It provides a safer work experience back for your users because they're more aware of the services that they're doing. So that's something that we do. Anyway, we got the same action sitting there for agents as well, not necessarily coaching, but certainly, re-authentifying if we have to, justifying and isolating that user, the same services, but across an AI perspective. So now we've got the context. Now that we've got the visibility, how do we apply that into AI specifically? Visibility, control, and protection, right? This is everything that we need to be talking about. And again, we still talk about shadow AI, which is no different to shadow IT, getting the visibility of what applications are running inside your network. And you said the words, Drew, by 2030, you want to be pretty much up and running in an automated environment, right?
Yep.
I saw some figures where I think by 2030, we're expecting over 80,000 different, and it's going to be plus of that, AI applications running on the marketplace, or in the world, sorry.
Yeah. It's just a matter of, once, like we're talking about today, how to securely and responsibly use them to augment our staff to have better outcomes, right? Quality, quantity, speed.
Mate, that is exactly right. Speed is a very good factor, which I'll touch on as well in a bit of detail. But yeah, so just, making sure that the non-corporate instances of apps are highlighted, and then you can apply those granular contextual controls based on the Gen AI, I always get tongue-tied on that one, app instance, right? Again, making sure that if I am logging into, and we use, as I said, G Suite internally, so we use Gemini, making sure it is actually Scott from work, not Scott personal, using that instance, right? I was going to talk about my wife here and how she successfully uses ChatGPT. I'm actually I used to be the manager for my daughter's soccer team. Not very exciting. Again, playing to your normal and boring life there, Drew, that I've described myself as. But, you have to make up the soccer roster. Who's on fruit, lines, flags, all that detail, right? And I said to my wife, what should I do here? Can I make this a lot easier for myself? She said, mate, just go and use ChatGPT. So I did. I did ChatGPT. How would I create a roster for my soccer team? And it said, you can use Excel. I'm like, I'm already using Excel, right?
Good start. It's not wrong.
It wasn't wrong. It was technically correct, but I wanted to do a lot more. Anyway, so that forces the user then to go do further research, or maybe, Scott, who's a bit of a dunce on using the tool, goes and tries a different tool and something that's unsanctioned in the office, right? So that's what we're talking about, shadow IT. And then the other piece inside this, using the next-gen SWIG, right, and DLP and AI guardrails, is protecting your users. So if you're talking about an education environment, I know when I first started doing education years ago, the IT administrator didn't care about what the kids were doing on Google search. But there were some instances where they realized they had to look into that self-harm piece. So the same thing with Gen AI, right? Again, the conversation hasn't changed. It's just application in a different space, making sure users are safe on that environment, right? And that's all. So that's all built in using our next-gen SWIG inside the one platform. What about agents? Making sure that agents are okay. Again, same kind of thing, right? But we just want to make sure that we're making sure those model context protocols, the MCP servers, making sure that we enable that seamless bidirectional data, right? That has to happen, but making sure we have visibility, control, and protection around that usage, and real-time policy enforcement using DLP, right? Making sure that it's not that your data isn't going out to a potentially wrong spot, preventing those risky activities. So my example in this is a friend of mine was creating, he's a fantastic guy. He was making up an antique grading system. Really cool story. So he obviously was right into antiques. He was making this system just for personal use that would look at an antique and it could grade it and then price it using an automatic calculation system, right? He was using Claude to do this. And he was mucking around with it and he couldn't quite get it to work. He was getting a bit frustrated, using the agent. And he said to it, I really need you to go and do this change and make it work for me, exclamation, 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 send. And it's come back, the agent's come back and said, look, I hear you. I feel you, if it can feel, right? But to do the changes, to really fix it, I need your permissions to go in and modify the back-end database and the code. Now that is interesting, right? So he said, sure, go and have access to it. Off it went. It started making these changes to the back end, changing the database. Now you don't have visibility anymore about what it's doing to your environment. I don't know if you've experienced that before, Drew.
No, not personally. I've heard stories of people giving it control and then it comes back and saying, sorry, I've actually deleted the database.
Yes. Yeah, that's the story.
Moves on with its day, right? It doesn't care.
It doesn't care. And then they said, well, where's my data? I need my data back. And so it's gone and restored a database, but not the same database. That's what I've heard. So
yeah.
So yeah, we need to get visibility of what these brokers are doing. And we can also wrap the security around that in the real time that we've been talking about, again, using the same platform. And then people ask me, and this is a question you guys asked me actually when we had that chat that time, is, well, what about if I'm actually doing this? That's one thing to get user traffic going through your Swig up to the SaaS application. What if I'm doing it down on-prem? What about if I've got agents on-prem going through my internal data center, accessing my databases and my LLMs internally? How are you going to capture that if it's not going to your Swig, right? Or to your Netskope One platform? Great question. I'm glad you asked it, Drew. We have a thing called the AI Gateway. Now, this is a VM that we will install inside your environment. Now, it can be on-prem or it can be in cloud as well. That gives us the visibility of those interactions between AI agents and LLMs. And another really cool feature, right? How AI services are running on tokens. So, you pay for 100 tokens. If the system goes to 1,000, you're going to get charged a lot more for the usage of the platform, right?
Yeah.
So we can actually put some rate limiting in using that service as well, making sure that nobody's sending out, or if you hit your rate limit on your tokens, old Scotty there, the engineer, is doing some changes and going, oh, just run more queries. That's fine. No, we can actually put automatic limits in there for you.
Yeah, okay. That's good.
Yeah. And again, same features, right? DLP, threat prevention, protection, and AI guardrails all built into the same model, just pushing it down through the VM, but the control is all done through the same platform. So no new gateway platforms, nothing like, it's all controlled through the same service. We have a service called AI red teaming, which is built into the platform as well. So think about, you've built your LLM, you've got your model up and running. How do we make sure that there's no leakage, or not leakage, it's probably not the right word, so drift in the model? How do we make sure that the rules that you've set up to say stop somebody going, I want to run a query, I know that you've got a vulnerability in your application, I'm going to get it to hack itself and make it jailbroken so it can do anything. How do you apply that trust regularly on a front end? So I'm going to try my little trick here again. Did that come up on the screen all right?
Yep, it's there.
Yeah, excellent. So we actually have, you can see I've clicked on AI red teaming here, which is actually up here. Again, through the same dashboard. I haven't changed anything. It's all through one dashboard. Here you would set up your target registries. You would set up so what am I looking into? Bedrock, OpenAI. I'm going to run some test rounds. I'm going to do tests for inappropriate content, or to make sure that somebody can't look for weapons or suicide or privacy and copyrights. So test my model for these services. Look for model drifting. Has anything changed over a period of time when we run those tests? Here's your prompt library that you can choose. They're already pre-built, and then you'll see the tests that are run over a period of time and how you're tracking on it. So fantastic feature. You obviously would pay to have the red teaming service, but again, built into the single console in our platform.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. AI red teaming built into the platform as well. And then your guardrails, as we mentioned, making sure that the services can't be hacked back on itself, make sure it can't be jailbroken, protecting users also externally, making sure they can't do things that they shouldn't be, and then giving you, again, we keep harping on the same thing, visibility, control, and protection, right, around agents and users. Hopefully that all makes sense. So the other piece to this, right, when we've got our visibility, we've got our security, how do we make sure that the performance is met from a user perspective and resiliency? It's all very important and very critical. You can't have and again, it's the same conversation we had around SaaS, right? If you've migrated your users and they're now using, back in the old days, I had some CRM that was sitting on-prem, and I could, make sure they had good access to the CRM because it was on-prem next to the users. Now we're all using Salesforce, right?
Yep.
It's a SaaS application. Who knows where it's living? So I don't know whether you guys know, we've actually built our own network called the New Edge Network. Did you know that, Drew?
I think I did. I've attended many training sessions, Scott. I must.
Yeah, that's right, mate. So, look, interesting facts for you. You can see on the screen all the different regions that we have. There's 120 plus data centers. Now, these are our own data. Sorry, it's our own equipment in third-party data centers. So we're not reliant on a single provider like GCP or Azure or AWS, for instance, right? And then therefore being locked into their adjacencies and their compute, right? So it's our own compute in third party, like Interactive and NextDC, for instance, right? And then we can form our own adjacencies, and we make sure that the users can get access to compute. So that, more importantly, if you're sitting in Perth or Auckland or Adelaide, we haven't spun one up for you, but give us more customers and we'll actually put compute in that location. So the compute for the decryption of the services is done locally, right? On the back of that, we then form our own adjacencies and peering, which I'll touch on in a second. But we are I think it's the 12th largest network in the world for network adjacencies. The next one below us is Netflix. So you imagine the experience you get with Netflix, right? It doesn't matter where you are in the world. And I've traveled around a little bit through some different countries. I've been very lucky. I can go into a hotel and turn on Netflix and get my streaming content very near immediately, right? That delivery is really good, isn't it? So think about that same user experience from content delivery. We're one better than Netflix on that perspective. So no matter where you are in the world, you're going to get the best access into things like Salesforce. And then we would talk about AI services. So you can see a list of all the services that we've got here, making sure that we provide you that really good connection. So if we put that in an AI perspective, right, we're making sure that you've got the best connection times to those AI services. And with our global footprint of 120 plus new edge data centers in over 80 regions, interesting, must be an updated slide. The other one said 75. You can see through using CDN front ends like Cloudflare and Akamai, right? We can very easily plug into things like Claude, Anthropic, right? It's a very, very quick and close connection from a network adjacency peering connection perspective. So yeah, we're providing, here's some numbers by the numbers, right? And we provide SLAs on these numbers, by the way. So if we do get these wrong, that's how much confidence we have in the platform, is that there is a financial penalty if we miss these, because it's part of our network SLAs. We're providing average latency to ChatGPT in around 4.8 milliseconds, Gemini in 7.7, Copilot 5.1, and Claude 5.5. Stunning figures, right? And those are from anywhere around the world, not just out of US to the US local connection, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. I'm just going to wrap that up really quickly with Netskope, built for the AI era. So don't think about just the security, but also the performance that comes with it, right? We're guaranteeing excellent performance on the back end of that service. And also, AI security in a single platform.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Scott. Like I said at the beginning, this is something we're seeing lots of customers and lots of conversations start up around. I know my people are using AI, or some people might think, well, I've got a really good firewall and security policy and some other software, and I've got most of it, but really it's part the visibility, it's part stopping some of the leakage, but also for me, what I really liked about some of your product ranges was the coaching aspect.
Yeah,
I've got a bit of a training background, and you can stop someone from walking through a door or walking from a door to another door and killing your garden because it's the shortest desire path there.
yeah,
But if you don't retrain them, they're just going to keep trying to find a way through, right? So
that's
that
exactly right.
redirection of that energy, that education, that it's not just blocked. We don't need to start up Team Purple inside my organization, but
Yeah,
helping them find a better way of doing it or the right ways of doing it, because
yep,
no one's out here to be malicious most of the time.
that's right.
We can help our staff actually start to augment their outputs, their behaviors, and the use of AI.
That's exactly right, mate. And quite often, the people that we see that a breach is happening in the network, the first thing they say is, "I didn't mean it. It was an accident," or not necessarily they weren't thinking, but they haven't been. The context isn't there around what they're doing is potentially risky. So
Yeah,
by highlighting those risks to those users, they can make those conscious decisions to not go down that path. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. An unintended consequence, right?
yeah, that's right, man. That's right.
Yeah. Well, we've had some people drifting in and out. I haven't seen any Q&As jump in the tab there. I'll give a 30-second song and dance while we plug Scott again on LinkedIn. Up the top right of your screen, you'll see a button. Scott needs more friends, especially professional friends. So hit him up on business Facebook. Give him a request, and we'll see if we've got any more Q&As popping in there now.
Thanks, Drew. I appreciate that.
That's all right.
Facebook for business, was it?
Yeah, business Facebook. That's what I
Yeah,
like to call it.
business Facebook. I love
Have
it.
you seen the quality of the posts at the moment?
Oh, yeah.
Check out LinkedIn Lunatics on a certain platform. It's hilarious. No questions coming in. So thank you very
All good.
much, Scott. We'll end it there. And I'm sure you and I will be chatting about some of the training sessions coming up in the future.
We certainly will, mate. And yeah, love what you guys are doing in that AI space. I think you guys are actually, really leading the way in that area from what you're doing, the understanding you have. And I know that what you're adopting internally is going to help you with customers' journeys because you're ahead of that curve. So if they're looking at AI, you guys are the ones that are going to know and help them with that security journey. So well
Appreciate
done,
it,
you.
Scott. It's a very sharp curve we find. It's just going
Yeah,
straight
that's
up at the moment.
straight up, man.
Yeah.
And
All
thanks
right.
again for your time, mate. I really appreciate you inviting me along.
All right. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Thank you.